Hey, what's up guys, Grace here, back into Borderlands 3 with a brand new update, and of course today we have the hotfix for November 7th, which contains some very important changes and quality of life adjustments. There are changes coming to the Bloody Harvest event, to the terror anointments on weapons, and finally some very interesting bug fixes and other adjustments, including one for the anointed enemies. No longer are they going to be immune to cryo damage, it seems, according to the patch notes over here, so some really nice indirect buffs to certain classes and builds. So you know what, let's just jump over it, and if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. But as always, the release time is going to be 3 PM PDT, and this is going to be planned for today, so just a few more hours until this hotfix is going to go live. But the changes here are as follows. First, starting with the Bloody Harvest event, there are going to be a number of adjustments over here, both to the encounters as well as to the loot drops. First of all, Captain Hunt is going to receive a rather significant buff. According to Gearbox, this boss encounter was a little bit too easy because players were able to skip entire phases because his shields were very low. So this new patch supposedly is going to increase his shields to make the fight slightly more engaging for most players, and also dramatically increase the loot drop chance so players are compensated nicely for defeating Captain Hunt in the first place. What this means is that this is likely the second or even the third time that Gearbox buffs up the loot drop chance from this boss. So if you didn't get the chance to play the Bloody Harvest event too much, or if you didn't find yourself too invested into it, you can go ahead and do it now because the drop chances are much better, so you can get much better loot, especially the dedicated shotgun and the grenade that spawn only in this event. So the patch notes over here read as follows: increased Captain Hunt's chance to drop legendary gear, increased his shields, the Hectoplasm drop rate from ghosts has also been increased, and now regular ghosts drop 2 Hectoplasms, badass ghosts drop 3, and finally the loot ghosts drop 5 hectoplasms in total. And what this means is that you're going to have an easier time to get into the hex zone. It's going to be much faster as these are going to drop at much higher rates than ever before. Also, the loot ghosts now drop more loot, and to go alongside with it, loot ghosts also have an increased chance of dropping Bloody Harvest specific legendary gear. And speaking of Bloody Harvest specific legendary gear, let's also go over the Terror Anointed effects, because these have also been changed around a little bit. So a lot of members of the fan base have been complaining that this new event is causing the loot to mostly drop only terror effects on their weapons, and this severely diminished the loot pool, especially if you wanted different anointments that you might have not gotten before. So what Gearbox did is they brought in 2 very important changes. The first one, the chance for terror anointed parts to drop from regular enemies has been overall decreased, and to go alongside with this, they also increased the chance for these terror anointed parts to drop from Bloody Harvest event. What this means is that if you're playing the Bloody Harvest event, you're going to have an increased chance to actually get these terror anointments, and otherwise if you're playing the regular content or fighting regular enemies, especially the non-ghost enemies, you shouldn't be affected by this event as much as it was before, and you should start seeing other anointments in there as well. So some pretty nice changes that really make sense. But the most important of them all come in the bug fix category, and the first one over there is actually quite exciting, especially if you're playing, for example, a character such as Zane or anything that relies on cryo damage, because it seems that anointed enemies are no longer immune to cryo damage. This is a huge change. Personally, for me, I'm playing a Mouse build that uses a Hex cryo grenade, and this pretty much means that I'm getting a very powerful indirect buff, because now I am going to affect any enemy on the map. It doesn't matter if it's anointed or not, though there is a disclaimer over here, and that is the fact that cryo damage is not going to fully freeze these anointed enemies, but rather just slow them down. But even that is plenty enough, rather than just having them being completely immune to it in the first place. So yeah, maybe this will urge a number of players to go back and playing Zane in case they have abandoned it for other classes, or otherwise just start playing the character in the first place. Hopefully this is going to be enough to at least bump up its usefulness. As far as the other their fixes go, they have addressed a number of issues that were hindering or even blocking progress with certain missions, like for example the mission It's Alive with the Abomination bot, or when quitting the game at a certain point in the mission called the Guns of Reliance. There's also a fix for the explosive gunpowder barrels not showing effects when shot, and finally, explosions created by enemies' badass weapons have a much quicker explosion effect to reduce screen clutter. This is especially useful if you're fighting in the slaughter shafts and fighting a lot of enemies that are throwing rockets all over the place. This should help a little bit to reduce the screen clutter, and yeah, these are just some of the changes that are coming up. So yeah, some really exciting stuff. The most important of them all are of course the changes to the Bloody Harvest event, to the loot drops, and of course to the fact that anointed enemies are no longer immune to the cryo damage. But yeah, let me know down below which are your favorite, and in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. Also subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys later.